Welcome to one of the oldest cities in the world. We got here last night after a long, awful travel day. The flight left at 10:40 from Poland, and it was like 3 hours and 40 minutes plus a 2-hour time change, so we got in early this morning. Very exhausted, but we decided to get up and go explore this amazing city, which is supposed to be a food lover's paradise. Let's go explore Yerevan, Armenia.
First stop of the day is the Cascades. So we actually didn't know this before we came to the Cascades today, but apparently there are escalators running up both sides of it, so you don't even have to walk all of the stairs if you don't want to. Taking a quick break at the top of the steps, and it appears that it's actually not even complete, so we looked it up. So they started building this around 1971. It is still yet to be complete, which we've seen here. It looks like they have like an upper part and a lower part which they're trying to connect, but I think the project has been stalled for like 10 years now.
One of the cool things about being here in Armenia is that it's the first stop in our Central Asia Caucasus region tour, and you really get a sense for its history. You know, you see a lot of post-Soviet brutalist architecture, but you also see these ancient buildings, you know, that have probably been inhabited for 2,500, 2,800 years. It's a really cool mix of kind of East and West, and showcases the nation's history and early adoption of Christianity. They were one of the first nations in the world to adopt Christianity as its official language in 800 BCE.
So tonight we're gonna go somewhere a little bit special for dinner. It has $3 signs, so we know it's gonna be a little bit expensive, but it's supposed to be one of the best places to get traditional Armenian food. It's been recommended by several people that we know, and we're gonna go and get some traditional dishes. So we had to zhuzh up our outfits a little bit and look as nice as we can.
We were just walking down the street and we've been seeing these, what I thought were missing dog posters, but it turns out they're actually looking for couriers to take dogs that people have adopted, and these people either live in the States or Canada, but they need someone to actually fly the dog to there. So this person will take the dog, meet you at the airport, give it to you, and then all you have to do is take it to that respective airport that they're looking for, and then you give it off to the adoptive family, which is really cool, and it's a great way to deal with strays, which I haven't seen very many of here.
So we decided to order 3 dishes here. One of them is kurjan, which is like a traditional kind of pastry dish. The other one is going to be these like beef tenderloin and onion dumplings. And then the third one is going to be this bread stuffed with greens, and these are all traditional Armenian dishes. The server looked at us like we were crazy, like we were getting a lot of food, but I don't care. We're here. We're going to try everything. We also got 2 glasses of red wine. Armenia is supposed to be famous for their wine, so we're going to give it a shot and see if it's actually really good.
Even though the next country that we are going to is more famous for their wine, arguably, and probably rightly so, Armenia deserves an honorary mention because they still host some of the oldest winemakers in the world. It's beautiful. It's a really good, I'm not a wine connoisseur at all, or a sommelier, but it is very good wine. Very dry, but good.
First bites of the meat with the pastry. The lamb is cooked to absolute perfection. They spiced it really well, and it's like it just sunk into the lamb. Pastry is phenomenal. It's crunchy, but it's also like doughy enough, which I love. Doughy pastries are the best. 10 out of 10. I'm so glad we got this, and it is a good amount of food. Okay, next up is the dumpling. It's a soup dumpling, and it looks like really thick dough. Again, a really strong onion flavor, but the soup in there is amazing.
So I forgot the name of this beauty, but it's lavash, which is basically the Armenian national bread, stuffed with these mountain herbs and spices, and it's supposed to be very kind of like earthy, but really good. Do it with a fork and knife. It's really interesting. It's good, but it's very herbal. I don't know how to describe it. Very earthy.
So we just finished dinner and now we're walking around this little square with fountains all over it, and I just have to say that that was some of the most amazing food that we've had on this trip. And I think we say that a lot, but secretly my favorite food is Mediterranean. I think the kurji dish that we just ate might have overtaken it.
I agree with Brie. Definitely my top 3 cuisines. I mean, I think Korji, not sure,
Korji?
was absolutely, I think there's an N in there, was absolutely amazing and incredibly filling. We actually asked our waiter which one to choose from, that or gapam, which is basically like a cooked pumpkin with rice inside with fruits, and he said go with the other one. So we're going to try and grab that tomorrow or someday soon, and we will let you know which one's the best. But right now Armenia is ranking up there in one of the best food cities I've ever been to.
So Jeff and I are out just exploring the city, trying to work off some of our meal, and Yerevan is a beautiful city. It's very dramatic. It has like very old and new architecture, fountains everywhere. People are out and about playing chess with one another, drinking tea, and it's just a very lively area. It's not what I expected coming here.
Completely agree. I didn't really know what to expect coming here. I've never been to Central Asia before, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be more of the West, more of the East, but it really is its own unique thing, has unique identity. Really cool though, like Brie said, definitely like a mashup of everything. The oldest, or one of the oldest inhabited, continuously inhabited cities on the earth, and I feel like you definitely get that sense being here. Definitely a mix of old and new, and it's just done in the most perfect way. Good morning from the Temple of Garni, which is the only still standing pagan temple in Armenia.
We decided to get a driver that we got through booking.com. It was about $60 each USD because it's easier than a taxi, and it just made sense for the day, even though I think it's a little pricey. We definitely picked the worst possible day to be here because there's just a couple people.
One of the reasons I think it was a bad day is because it's a Sunday and it seems to be just a bunch of kids out here, so probably summer camps. There were 3 times to pick, and we picked 11 a.m. so we could get going a little bit after we ate some breakfast, and it's definitely a busier time, I'm going to assume. I mean, it is absolutely slammed. Just a quick fun fact, the temple behind me was probably created around 71, 72 AD is what they believe, which is roughly 230, 250 years before they adopted Christianity. So relatively new, and to build something like this right before they switch religions is actually pretty cool. And it's dedicated to the sun god, and that's why there's a hole in the middle of the temple to let the god enter the temple so that people could worship him. That was chaos.
Welcome to the Geghard monastery.
So Geghard comes from the Armenian word which means spear, because this is the monastery of the spear. So supposedly the spear that wounded Jesus Christ was brought here after that transpired, although it's stored elsewhere now, and it was originally called the church or the monastery of the spring because it was built above a freshwater spring. Now the main chapel was actually built in about the 1200s or the 12th century, and the complex itself though is much older than that. It was actually built around the 4th century, they believe. It's busy. We're gonna go check it out and try and climb through the crowds of kids on summer camp trips here.
This always happens.
It's a beautiful day. I don't blame them.
Somehow we managed to get one room completely alone, and it is amazing. This is such an old room that you can really get a sense for the time that this temple has been here.
Brave the crowds, but I'm gonna wait a second because there are just too many kids coming up. Last stop of the day, Sevan Monastery, which is perched above Lake Sevan in Armenia. So this is outside of Yerevan, about an hour and a half, and this lake is huge. It's also the second highest freshwater lake in the world, and it comprises 5% of Armenia's total landmass.
And also, fun fact, Armenia gets 90% of their fish from this lake.
This thing is impressively huge.
We learned a lot of great information from this sign.
And this sign. Thank you.
So we just finished up with our driver and our tour, and the sights were awesome, even though they were super busy, but can't be too mad. It was a Sunday. We have never seen so many broken down cars on the side of the road as when we were driving back into the city. And there were also a lot of accidents. And honestly, our driver was kind of a crazy driver, so I'm glad that we didn't have to deal with that. It was a really great way to get a sampling of Armenia's highlights in just a single afternoon, so I highly recommend. But we are really excited more for tonight because we're going to dinner again. And if we're going to dinner, we're gonna get something Armenian. Good morning, or should I say good afternoon. We slept in a little late today, but last night, I think the last thing I said was that we were going to dinner and we were very excited. So we originally tried to go to a restaurant called, I think it's Charette, but they were booked out for many days in advance, so I don't think we can go there, but they had stellar reviews. So we ended up going to one called Dol Mama, which came highly recommended from a friend of a friend. But they said you should go there for the lamb stew. It was good. I think we got one video of that. But it was a little weird because when we were trying to pay our bill, the server came over and said, hey, I forgot to put wine on your tab. Just go ahead and like add it in your head. And then she tried to tell us that wine was double the price than what it was. And then when we corrected her, she was like, oh yeah, that's right. Sorry about that. So if you go there, I don't know, it seemed like a little shady, but overall, like the food was okay. I just don't think that we would go back. Today is our last day in Yerevan, which we're very, very sad about. So we're gonna try to take advantage of the beautiful weather and we're gonna go to the market. So we just finished up at the market and we didn't purchase anything, but what you will notice if you ever come to a market in Armenia is that there are chessboards everywhere, and that's because it's actually taught in their curriculum at school, so chess is a very big deal here. And if we had room in our bag, I think we'd get one because they were beautiful.
It's our last night in Armenia, our last night in Yerevan specifically, and it's time to go get dinner. Our goal tonight is gampama. Gampama?
Gampanan?
Gampama? I think it's gampama. We're going for the roasted pumpkin filled with rice and like pine nuts and fruits. It's supposed to be really good, and it's only for special occasions, and it takes a long time to cook. So we don't have any reservations here, and it seems like you do need them at a lot of restaurants. So wish us luck, fingers crossed. We're gonna try 2 places and hopefully one gets us in.
Okay, so we just finished up at a restaurant called The Tavern, and we tried to film in there, but honestly, it's kind of cave-like, so it was a bit too loud and echoey. Just gonna tell you what we had and how amazing it was because it was amazing. So first things first, we ordered what was called the tandoori gata, which is basically Armenian sweetbread. How do I describe this? So it was basically like a shortbread cookie had a baby with a sugar cookie and somehow ended up as a bread. It was unbelievable. I think one of the best desserts we've had on this trip so far. And it's also the first thing we've gotten in a takeaway bag to take home because it was that good. The second dish that came out was, well, obviously we had dessert first because our other dishes took a little bit longer. So the second dish was barbecue beef tenderloin. It was cooked really well. It wasn't our first choice, but we needed some protein. Third was something called gapama, which we've been talking about wanting to try this entire time. So there's a savory one and there's a sweet one. The sweet one, he said, was big enough for a party of 6 and also takes a really long time to bake. So we went with a smaller one that has beef tenderloin in it. It was a highly unusual dish, but it was actually really good. The pumpkin was cooked perfectly. And inside there's like beans with eggplant and then beef. And overall it was really good, but I'm really sad we weren't able to try the sweet one. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, this vlog, this food diary, whatever you want to call it, from Armenia. We really enjoyed our time here, and after discussing it with Jeff, I think Armenia ranks somewhere in the top 5 of best places to eat on this trip, which is a huge accolade. We will be back. So if you don't follow our videos already, please hit like and subscribe so you can join us.